My name is Jim Harris, and I'll be moderating our panel today. Welcome to Greek House Davos, and welcome to the very first event for the GHD 2024. It's a real honor for the two of us to be kicking off this week-long series of incredible talks, panel discussions, and presentations. And our talk is going to focus on the energy transition. Congratulations to Irene and the entire team at Greek House Davos 2024 on putting together such an amazing program. This is the third year for GHD, and in the very first year, the Prime Minister of Greece was here at Greek House Davos, and will be again this year. So stay tuned and look for all those announcements of events. We're going to be live streaming this, and it will be available afterwards on social media like Facebook or Twitter, LinkedIn. So together, corporate leaders, political leaders, thought leaders come here to Greek House Davos to talk about important topics. And today we're going to be talking about the energy transition. When you look at the risk analysis that's just been put out by WEF for 10 years, the top 4 risks are all about environmental collapse. It's really about climate. And so our talk today about the energy transition is very important for the world we live in today. Now, for the event at hand, I'd like to introduce Alexandra Sdoukou, who is the Deputy Minister of Environment for Environment and Energy for Greece. She served as the advisor to the President of the Hellenic Republic, and she taught at Aristotle University. Like, how cool a title is that? Like, Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, foundation of Western thought, and she taught at Aristotle University. So, Alexandra, what is one or two fascinating facts about you that people wouldn't know? For instance, I'll start. I sailed from England to Australia on a tall ship when I was 25. Or when I was 6 years old, I knew I was going to be an environmentalist. So what's one or two fun or fascinating facts about you?
I guess that's the most difficult question you're asking for me to reply. I would say I'm a boring person, Jim, because in all my life, my main target was, let's say, to study, to pass to the university, and then to find a job. I love the energy sector a lot, but this, I don't know if this looks fascinating or not. I would say the most fascinating for me is to be in the position while I'm working every day, so many hours, I'm here and there in different parts of the world, to be able to put my 3 kids to bed, if it's possible, every night, and just give them a kiss. I think that's the most challenging for a woman who works in general. The energy sector is very challenging and very difficult. It needs a lot of devotion from me. I have to work a lot of hours, but the most fascinating is how I can combine being a good mother and at the same time, of course, serve my position. But I did something adventurous, now that you are asking me. When I was 9 months pregnant, they asked me to participate in a training program in the States. It was lasting, it has a duration of 3 weeks. And I said, it's impossible to miss it. Then my doctor was saying, no, it's impossible to let you go from Greece to the States for that. But I did so. So apart from that, I would find it was quite adventurous. I didn't give birth finally to the States. So yes, this is the answer of what you're asking me.
Fantastic. Now, from that, I take one of the great things of hope for me is parents love their children madly. And I think when we bring the focus back to our children and to their future, we can make this energy transition and cope with these incredible challenges. And the most important things, when we come down to it, our children. So we're going to start our panel today on energy transition and the role that Greece will play in the regional energy transition, with the Deputy Minister giving us a short 3 to 5 minute statement framing the issue for our discussion today.
Sure. First of all, let me also say that it's a great pleasure for me to be here again. I think that Greek House Davos, was a great idea. And that great idea very soon become somehow an institution, because it gives, the chance to Greece to showcase our progress in Greece, highlight also the plans we have for the future, but also integrate somehow our national achievements in this global narrative. That's why I want to thank a lot the organizers for the invitation, but also congratulate them, because they have managed finally to make Greek House Davos a hub of exchanging ideas, opinions, during, of course, this very important and very busy week. And I'm also very excited to share this panel with you. I know as well, Jim, that you are body and soul dedicated to fight against climate change. Now, let me say that what we see over the last few years, it seems like we are moving from crisis to crisis and from challenge to challenge, right? Just as we started to leave the pandemic behind, then we had an energy crisis that emerged. That energy crisis was intensified by the Russian aggression to Ukraine. And we've seen the last months this horrible attack by Hamas to unarmed Israeli people. A few days ago, we also saw this global trade disruption by Houthi in Yemen. And what all these events show to us is that our world now has become more unpredictable, more unstable, I would say, and definitely a lot less secure. And obviously, apart from their often tragic effects in lives, these geopolitical crises have a tremendous impact at the energy sector. Both, of course, at the global level, at the regional level, and also at the national level. And that's because you can imagine energy is globalized. As you know, energy sources and even demand hubs can be in continents far away. So any global turmoil has a tremendous impact in energy. You can see supply routes that become disrupted. You see fuel sources that can become scarce, critical infrastructure as well that is threatened or even destroyed. Partnerships as well are broken. You see investors that become more cautious when you have such kind of crisis. And money as well, I think, becomes more expensive. And this environment is not at all a favorable environment where a sector, as the energy sector, can flourish, can accomplish its target, which is make this transformation. And in many parts of the world, I would focus in Europe specifically. During, I would say, the last couple of years, what is the effort? The effort of Europe governments and businesses is, speaking about the energy sector, is to change our energy model, right? We want to get away from fossil fuels. We want to add more clean sources in our energy mix. We want to use the energy on a smarter and more efficient way. And this by itself is a titanic effort, even within the climate of geopolitical stability and certainty. And obviously this becomes much more difficult, much more challenging when we have to face at the same time all the crises I mentioned. But what is interesting, though, is that despite the much more challenging and much more threatening international environment, I have the feeling that we don't want to delay our efforts. So we don't want to be sidetracked. We don't want to use these various crises as an excuse in order not to deal, I would say, with the most challenging and the most existential threat of our humanity, which is the fight against climate change. In Europe, what we are doing currently, more or less all member states, is to focus on the priority that has been set by European Union through the Repower EU initiative. The Repower EU initiative is important because it has two very clear missions. The first one is, of course, to reduce energy dependence from Russian gas, in particular from fossil fuels, and two, to achieve this reduction by removing fossil fuels, again, particularly Russian gas, quickly and permanently. So two birds, I would say, with one stone. And I'm glad that during COP28, I think everyone recognized this need. I heard a UN official saying very accurately that this is the beginning of the end of the fossil fuel era. So all countries have to make their best of their effort. And just before I finish my first introduction, just to say where Greece stands in this global and this regional context. Greece is also proceeding, I would say, rapidly towards its climate goals. Just for you to know that at the height of the energy crisis, it was in 2022, Greece adopted for the first time its climate law. What we did actually there was to put into law our political commitment to phase out from fossil fuels by 2028. So we did that since 2022. And these, of course, commit us to make, of course, clean sources like renewables contribute by 80% of our electricity production by 2030. So these are the main, for us, big goals. So today, almost half of our electricity is from renewables. Just for you and for the people that are here with us to know, Greece is also one of the most attractive places to invest in the renewables. And energy, I would say that energy projects in the pipeline are many times more than the capacity we need in Greece for 2030. We have doubled our renewable capacity in the last 4 years. The target is to double it again by 2030. And this success, Jim, didn't come by accident, I would say. Greece has been transformed as a whole in the last 4 years, leaving behind, of course, a decade of a financial crisis from which Greek citizens have suffered a lot. But now, allow me to say that we have reinvented ourselves. Greece our economy grows and grows very rapidly. We attract the interest of many investors now in Greece for a number of fascinating projects like, I don't know, electricity interconnections, for example, subsea electricity interconnections, or modern highways, ports. We see a boom of residential and hotel business, as well, construction, telecommunication. We want to digitalize the public sector as well in Greece, the banking sector. So our entire economy is completely under an ongoing transformation. So Greece is back, is better, I would say, stronger, faster, and I will add on that, more determined than ever. This, of course, has the personal footprint of our Greek Prime Minister, Kyriakos Mitsotakis. I'm very proud that I'm serving in this government because we really had to work very hard in the previous 4 years, and the mandate we have from our Prime Minister is to continue working towards achieving more reforms, towards attracting more investments. So this is the focus of our job. And finally, you can imagine that energy, of course, is part of this transformation, but what I want the audience here to keep in mind is that we don't want to monopolize, let's say, this success. We want to share it, and we want to share it with our neighbors, with our partners, with friends, with the business sector. And again, I truly believe that the energy sector, since we're talking about this very interesting topic, is at the forefront of this new role of Greece. Actually, what Greece aspires to become is be a regional pillar, a pillar of stability, a pillar of security, of progress. So this is basically the landscape currently in Greece and how we want to move towards.
Some of the things that occurred to me in your introductory comment there, change is inevitable, apparently, except in a vending machine. But we have to be ready to change in this environment where we have the pandemic, where we have the conflicts that we're experiencing, where energy security is threatened because of Russian gas. And one of the insights that occurs to me is that when we move to renewables, and your renewables have doubled over the last 2 or 3 years in Greece, so congratulations, is energy independence becomes a greater reality. And that risk of geopolitical instability gets removed. So renewables are not just good for the climate, they're good for energy independence, energy security. And the other thing I wanted to mention is most people won't know, but the price of solar has decreased 640x since 1970. So it becomes cheaper and cheaper. And of course, Greece has the great good fortune of being in a very sunny climate. And so solar and wind are great resources. So I want to just jump in. One of the main priorities of the Greek government is to position itself as an energy hub for the region. And so what are some of the projects for this green transition in helping achieve energy independence for the region?
Okay, yes. Again, I would say that a key pillar for our energy policy is for Greece to make it an energy hub for the region. And you're right, we want this to happen for another purpose, because we want to promote the decarbonization of the countries as well in the region. In line, actually, with the priorities of the European Union, with the Repower, as I mentioned, EU initiative, and also the Fit for 55 initiative. So In the last 4 years, we've made significant progress towards this twin goal, I would say. For example, projects like the TAP, the Transadriatic pipeline, which brings from Azerbaijan natural gas to Europe, is the first one, the IGB interconnector, Greece-Bulgaria. Both these projects were commissioned in the last 4 years. So these, along as well with the LNG terminal in around Athens, just outside Athens, in Revithousa. It has also played an important role for the diversification of energy routes and sources, especially in the context of the energy crisis and in the context of, helping our neighboring countries also to diversify their sources and routes. And we are staying the course. What we want to do is intensify our efforts. When it comes to natural gas, there is another very important project in Greece. It's a critical infrastructure. It's the new FSRU, floating regasification storage unit in Alexandroupolis. It is going to be commissioned in spring this year. So it's going to open another important LNG gateway for the region. We are also building a gas interconnector between Greece and North Macedonia. It is under construction, and it's going to be commissioned as well next year. Again, you can imagine that this can bring new quantities of natural gas passing through North Macedonia to other countries where it's needed. And in the sphere of electricity, because so far I mentioned, I described to you a couple of projects and why they are important, but in the area of the natural gas, so in the area of electricity, we are also planning to implement new electricity interconnections. You can imagine that these electricity interconnections will promote as well the energy transition target for our neighboring countries. It's not only, for Greece. I can name a good example, which is recent. It's the new electricity interconnection between Greece and Bulgaria. It's a second, actually, interconnection. But also, what we want in Greece is to place Greece as a focal point, and this is the main target for Greece, the focal point of a new electricity corridor that will help us tap into the enormous, I would say, renewable potential in Middle East or North Africa, and direct this energy to Central Europe, where it's energy thirsty. I'm referring to projects that are currently we're trying to mature them, like, for example, the Greece-Cyprus-Israeli interconnection. It's one of the most complicated projects, but it has the support, the European support and the European funding, because you can imagine we have deep waters. There are a lot of challenges when you build subsea interconnections and cables through these countries. And we are also working on a bilateral cooperation between Greece and Egypt. There is another project of electrical interconnection between Egypt and Greece. And at the same time, of course, we are working under existing electricity interconnections with Italy, with Albania, with North Macedonia, with Turkey as well. So for me, in one word, I think connectivity is the name of the game.
Many people don't realize it, but more energy falls on the Earth from the sun in one single hour than all energy consumed globally from all sources. And so if we can live within the energy footprint of the sun, we're powered forever. And the great thing about it is it's free. So you were mentioning Northern Africa, and a very tiny square area of Northern Africa in the Sahara Desert, for instance, can power all of Europe. Boom. And you might think, well, how do you power Europe at night when the sun is set? Well, that's where we get into the whole area of energy storage. So the rise of batteries for storage and other forms of storage is explosive. It's growing exponentially. So to that end, we mentioned earlier that the renewable energy within Greece has doubled in the last 2 or 3 years. What are the next steps that you envision in order to make the energy mix even greener?
You said that before. Storage is the next challenge for Greece as well. We are moving fast to shift, of course, to clean energy sources and reduce our dependence. As you mentioned, yes, we have today an installed capacity of 12 gigawatt currently. The renewables participation in the energy mix exceeds 40%, I would say. It was 23% in 2019. Greece currently is at the 7th place when it comes to electricity production from renewables, and it is also among the leaders, I would say, in attractive investments in renewables, according to some studies. And what we want to do is just to keep this remarkable momentum. We plan, as I mentioned, to increase the installed capacity, minimum 23 gigawatt by 2030. And the green element in the electricity production to reach, as I mentioned earlier, the 80%. And for the achievement, Jim, of these targets, we have a 7 billion investment plan from the transmission and distribution system operators. This is very critical. If we don't upgrade our grid, if we don't promote more our grid interconnections, we will not be in a position, of course, to achieve more renewables. So these are completely interlinked grid, and this is why we have a very aggressive, I would say, business plan on behalf of the transmission and the distribution operators. Again, the next challenge is battery storage, and not only battery storage, hydro pump as well. I admired a lot when I visited Canada how you have managed to put in your energy mix, and this is, the fascinating thing. We need a balance, and we need a variety of different sources in our energy mix. But you have managed wonderfully in, in having a lot of hydro in your system, and these are base. It's energy coming from a base load system, and this helps a lot. So this is currently where we are focusing in Greece to create. We have done it already. Create the regulatory framework for storage systems in Greece, and. Of course, the most important issue is how we will be able to transfer the energy, not only the energy that is coming from our renewables in Greece, export it to our neighbors and beyond. So this is the difficult mission, and this is a place where we focus a lot, talking a lot on a G2G level with other countries, with stakeholders. And this is why I believe we need more international interconnections. I've already mentioned some of the key projects on that, but our vision, I would say, is to export both the energy that is produced from Greece, but also energy transferred, as I said before, from East Med, from Middle East, from Caspian Sea, in order to satisfy the needs of Central Europe. So this is the plan currently in the Ministry of Environment and Energy, to expedite the processes that are needed in order to meet these national targets we have set for greenhouse gas emission by 55%, more renewables, more interconnectivity, and also electrification of transport, which is another difficult task we have to do.
So one of the things I find fascinating, and this is a bit of a trick question, so I'm warning you in advance. What is the greatest source of energy for the United States since 1975? And people will guess all sorts of things, but the answer is energy efficiency. If every device or appliance in the United States had the same energy efficiency as 1975, the U.S. would need 2.5 times the energy that it currently uses. So in fact, the greatest source of energy is not using it in the first place. So we've been talking a lot about the supply side of the energy equation. I think we also need to focus on the demand side. And this can be done very easily. For instance, an electric light bulb that's an incandescent, as opposed to an LED. LEDs use 80 to 90% less energy, and they last 10,000 hours. So it reduces labor as well of changing light bulbs. So something so simple as that, more than 10% of the electricity used in the US is just for lighting. So imagine being able to, with a wave of a pen on a piece of legislation, being able to cut your energy use by 5% overnight. Boom. So there are many solutions that we have on the demand side. We're not focusing on that today, but I just want to put that out because there is great hope. So Greece can act as a catalyst and a point of reference for other countries in the area. What ways might you accelerate the transition to a green energy future for your neighbors, and in what ways?
Yes, Jim, I firmly believe that Greece can support the energy transition of our neighboring countries. And how we can do that? We can do that with best practices, policies, with technical expertise, and also, and most importantly, with investments, I think. I have a recent example. We signed, for example, a memorandum of understanding with Bulgaria recently for the coupling of Western Balkans energy markets with the Greek one. So the interconnection also between Greece and Bulgaria is an example that was highlighted also by European Commission as an example of a cross-border cooperation between two Balkan neighbors in the energy sector. I find very important as well the investments, again, of Greek energy groups to our neighboring countries. For instance, the company, the utility company Enel in Romania, for example, was recently purchased by the Greek utility electricity provider, PPC. And these investments, we can imagine that they can help a lot the neighboring countries achieving also their green transition. Let me point out as well that Greece has, again, as I mentioned, more renewable installed capacity than all the countries in the region combined. And as a result, I believe that our experience with these rapid deployment of renewables can also be beneficial to the countries in the region. I think that, and one more example, because you're asking me how Greece can help neighboring countries. I believe that global players that want to play a role in the region, they can use Greece as a base for their regional operations. And an important key for that decision is because Greece currently has a sound institutional framework and it has a strong economy. Now it came to my mind, for instance, very recently there was a decision by the company, Danish company, COP. It was the Copenhagen, actually, the Copenhagen Offshore partners that they decided to open an office in Greece that was going to serve as one of the hubs they wanted to make to serve all international offices of the company. So I think that Greece will always remain focused on the three main goals that has, which is sustainability, second, energy security, and obviously affordability in order to provide cheap, clean energy to Europe. And lastly, I would say that our friends and our partners can count on us, not just today, but also in the future, because we really want to build a constructive and mutually, I would say, beneficial energy relationship.
When you mentioned security, sustainability, and affordability, it immediately popped into mind for me. In southern Australia, they installed the largest utility grid scale storage project. It was $190 million Australian. And in 2 years, it made the owners of that project back $190 million in profit, while at the same time saving Australian electricity payers more than $190 million, which is a win-win. A win for the company, a win for ratepayers. And as the energy hub and as the focus goes to more renewables and getting, for instance, solar from Northern Africa, I could see Greece being an energy storage hub for the region. So I think these are very exciting times. The cost of batteries, just like the cost of solar, has plunged. Since 2010, the cost of storage has fallen by more than 90%. So energy storage will be a very important part of the mix going forward. So switching gears to the next question. The EU is placing emphasis on offshore wind, an area where Greece has a huge advantage and potential. You've recently announced the National Offshore Wind Parks Development Plan. What comes next, and when can we expect the first parks to be commissioned?
Thank you for this question. Yeah, because so far in the Greek energy policy, there was nothing to say about offshore, and the offshore wind potential of Greece, Jim, is huge. Nobody knows this.
We just all know it in this room here, and for you watching at home online.
So just to say that the capacity factor the capacity factor of Greece's wind potential exceeds 45%. Maybe even 50%, I would say, is the capacity factor for offshore wind in Greece. And you can understand that this automatically renders the investments in this sector very yielding. Right? So this means that we have a competitive advantage in this sector when it comes to wind capacity, and we need to make the most of it. And obviously, developing this sector will not only allow Greece to achieve our renewable targets we have set, but again, it's going to help us transform our country as a clean energy exporter. Ultimately, this is where we have to go. So to this end, as you have pointed out, we have launched our national program for offshore wind energy. We have announced the first 2 licenses for pilot offshore wind farms. They've been awarded very recently. We have a target of 2 giga coming from offshore wind parks by 2030. This is a very challenging target, taking into account that we are in the beginning of 2024. So we need to expedite any kind of processes if we want to have those parks electrified in a few years from now. We are preparing currently the process in order to auction, to prepare, let's say, the next round for licenses. The most important issue is to map the Greek seas, and we have already done it, and we have already identified what are the appropriate sites in order to be developed. So together with the investors, we want very quickly to proceed with the necessary surveys, like bathymetric surveys, wind, of course, so to measure the wind and any kind of necessary measurements that are necessary before we proceed with the tendering procedure. And this is where we stand today. But anyway, our target is to commission these first projects in Greece in the next 6 to 7 years. And in this process, we are committed, I would say, to attract best-in-class investors. This is what we want to have for Greece, that they can spearhead, I would say, the growth of offshore wind potential. Apart from the fact, as I mentioned, that we have an important wind potential, I think Greece can become also a hub in the Mediterranean region by developing offshore parks, and this is one of our current big bets in Greece to create a local value in the supply, also the supply chain for offshore. We are talking a lot in the European Union how we can become less dependent from components and things that we import from third countries. I think that the offshore sector is a very promising one. Why not, if we try at a European level, helping investments in this sector? Why not? In Greece, we manufacture components for wind turbines. So if we create, a more a bigger scale on this potential, not only for Greece but for the whole region, then these can bring new investments, new jobs, and of course a better economy. And this is what we want to achieve.
Fantastic. Now, we're just coming to the end of our discussion. Are there any items that we haven't talked about that we should have talked about?
I don't know. I can imagine that. Yes. Well, perhaps we can take one question. I would say.
One question. Okay. Question you could do here. I do
whatever.
here. You know, there.
Yeah.
Boom.
This means that our discussion was interesting.
Okay. So, Sophia, just tell us where you're from and quickly what's your question.
Sure. I'm Sophia, working in London, originally from Chicago. I study the role that sustainability plays in building soft power. My question would be, how do you reconcile Greece's climate goals with wanting to maintain tourism and the emissions and climate impact that creates?
Okay.
Can you? Because I couldn't see you.
Oh,
Can you?
the moderator was standing in the way.
How we can reconcile? You mentioned.
Climate goals and energy transition with also wanting to maintain tourism flows regionally and from abroad.
Have you been to Greece? Yes. So you love, I guess, the Greek islands and all these. This is something that, of course, we've put it on the table several times. Greece depends a lot of its GDP from the tourism sector. And, find the right balance and be compatible with continuing growing this sector, the tourism sector, and at the same time achieving the climate goals is obviously, it's not an easy task. But I wouldn't say that one affects the other. If you have sound policies, if you have concrete business cases there, and if you have an open dialogue, and this is very important, if you have an open dialogue with the society and the stakeholders, I think we have to understand and realize that you cannot design projects and policies for local societies, and this stands not only for Greece but everywhere, without taking into account a region, the priorities of the local society, from the sectors from where they have their everyday living, like fishing or tourism, and taking full respect on not just on their needs but on their operations, and protect those operations without necessarily harming them, while at the same time you open new kind of operations like installing renewables, for example. But I find it manageable, and this is what we try to do in Greece, to be honest with the stakeholders, and have a complete transparency and fair rules. But the fact that it's and one way going forward, this carbon neutrality, as we move forward, and the fact that we need to intensify our efforts in all countries where we come from, this is a reality.
Now, just to throw in my own 2 cents, the most beautiful country in the world that I visited is Greece. Now, that may have been because I was 25 years old and I was with my girlfriend at the time and madly in love. That might have had something to do with it. But when you go there, the sea, the sky, the food, just pick that day, Greek salads, moussaka, heaven. So I think that's why people go to Greece, not for the energy grid. And if you look to the Greek islands, you see all the buildings are white. Why is that? Because they reflect the heat of the sun. You don't need air conditioning when all the buildings have white walls and roofs. This is the albedo effect. So for centuries, millennia, the Greeks have known how to use less energy. So what is old is new in some ways.
But islands, Jim, will be the first one that will be hit by the climate crisis. So we need to protect them. They are vulnerable. And this is why we need to start this exercise first from the islands, which have, a less technical capacity to protect themselves and meet their climate targets.
Absolutely. So do you want to take one more, or we're done? One more question. Okay, at the very far back, come on forward, and I'm not going to stand in front of you, so oh, there we go.
I think you can hear me. Hi, this is Noreen Nayar. I'm a consultant and I advise a few climate tech and energy-related companies and investors. One of my question is, with the transition, how do you think your government's working on the employment needs and the kind of education to actually be the long-term strategy that you spoke of? What's necessary given the Greek diaspora that happened, I guess 5-10 years ago?
Jump in. So one of the things I want to mention, when I talked about demand use on end use, when you actually retrofit, whether it's houses to be more energy efficient, or you, through legislation, say higher efficiency of appliances, it actually creates local jobs. So it is hugely job intensive to work on. I'm getting the signal. We need to finish. Okay, so moderator, keep your answer shorter. That was the signal. It's a unique hand signal. Okay, so end use can create a lot of local jobs. Over to you for the final comment of our panel.
Very good question. That's a mega project. This transformation that we are talking about needs obviously a reskilling, an upskilling, a new skilling, because there are new technologies coming, storage, hydrogen, biomethane, new things, new technologies that we were not familiar with the previous years. So we need to invest a lot on work employment. Through training schedules, putting money towards that direction. This is something that we care a lot about that in Greece. Ultimately, of course, these energy transition need hundreds of new jobs, as you mentioned, for example. And this is a priority also for Greece to focus more on that and build more capacity.
So I hope you will all join me in thanking Deputy Minister Alexandra Sdoukou for an amazing... What a wonderful way to kick off the entire agenda for Davos Week at Greek House Davos. It's been fantastic to have you all here. We still will mingle about, and there's amazing coffees and fresh squeezed orange juice. And just a congratulations to Irene and the entire team at Greek House Davos. So check out the other panels and keynotes that are coming up. Particularly the Prime Minister is coming later this week.
Yes, we'll see.
We'll see. So keep checking the panel, keep checking online. And we're now going to be officially adjourned.